Textile. Hello. I'm going to start off by saying I can't remember words very well, so if I look off to the side, I'm looking at a script because I don't have one of those little cycles the words down like proper people that do this do. So yeah, there we go. That's what we're going with, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It appears at least some of you enjoyed my first attempt at speaking at a camera, so here I am, forever bowing to peer pressure, doing it again. My first two videos were on the topic of knotting, one of the more risque named textile crafts. Don't look it up. And I think a third video in succession on the topic would be classed as milking it, plus I don't have enough additional interesting things to say about it that haven't already been said. There was even a song. It was great. So I asked myself, what sort of video should I make to entertain and educate people? Edutain people, if you will, with an interest in textiles. And I thought, a tier list. A tier list. Definitely a tier list. This is going to be great to figure out in post. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I'll figure it out. I have spent the last few years learning how to do different textile crafts. I feel uniquely positioned to construct this entirely correct and not at all subjective list of totally arbitrarily ranked textile crafts in the classic tier list format, which I'm sure none of you will argue about in the comments at all. No one will. Now, because we're all very precise and scientific here, I will be ranking them out of 10 on a few aspects which will be averaged out to find the final letter grade. I'll be using the UK grading system because that's where I live, innit? I will, of course, follow the grade intervals already given in order to create an S tier. I'll put them on screen now. Now, there are a lot of textile crafts, and not all of them are created equal. So in order to give some of the underdogs a fighting chance, I will be rating each craft out of 10 on the following categories. Number 1, how accessible it is in availability and affordability. This could mean how commonplace the tools are to obtain, or how easy they are to make with what you have. For example, knitting and crochet needles and hooks are very readily available, but so are clothes pegs, cushions, and pins, which suffice for someone learning to make bobbin lace. Basically, how hard would you have to look to find something that will do the job, and how much will you be paying for it? How easy it is to learn. This, unlike the next two categories, is very subjective. We're all, after all, still learning. Not me, though. I'm great at all of these. So I've decided to class a craft as learned when the crafter can make a finished, usable item one would normally expect that craft to create, with minimal to no mistakes. For example, a knitted scarf with no dropped stitches, or a crocheted plush that looks like what it's meant to be. I'm not talking about mastering the craft, but someone who's competent enough to not need to look up how to perform the basic stitches anymore. That's what we're going for. Now, the next two entirely non-subjective categories that I will not be taking any feedback on, and I'm 100% right about, how much drip the finished work provides. For those of you who aren't down with the lingo, drip in this instance means stylish in attire. See dapper, hip, decked out, bodacious, fly, or on point, depending on your preferred generation's slang of choice. If you were to wear or flaunt something made of this, would you turn heads, or would you just confuse passers-by? And lastly, and very much not leastly, because this is my Roman Empire, how useful would it be in a zombie apocalypse? This one is a bit of a no-brainer, so if you were to have to rely on your skills with this craft while brain-eating beasties were nipping at your heels, how useful would you be? I'd like to put in a small caveat here that you cannot use the tools of your craft as weapons. Knitters, I am looking at you. It is not a vampire apocalypse. Put down the stakes. No using the things as actual weapons. I'm talking about how useful they'd be in creating clothing, using it for survival purposes, but not necessarily as... This is my tier list, I do what I want. Lastly, I'll be discounting anything that requires machinery or electricity to perform. That takes out tufting, machine sewing, and machine knitting. Too easy to get full marks if you're using the power of technology. Also, the zombies will hear you. I don't make the rules. Now that's out of the way, let's get rating. I've written down a few points on each of these to consider, but otherwise I will be unscripted for most of the nattering on about all of these. You've been warned. I'm going to start with the classics that we all know. Crochet. For this list, it does encompass classic crochet, Tunisian in the round, and hairpin. Let me grab the tools that are necessary for these. Crochet is crochet. If you're here and you don't know what crochet is, I'm sorry, this is not the sort of video that you want to make a foray into this for. It's a bit too unhinged for you yet. Come back soon, though. Figure out what it is, and then we'll talk. and we'll talk bestie. This is a Tunisian crochet hook. It's long. They're long. The way you make the stitches is the hooking action is very similar, but you make them by doing basically really long things. It is the knitting of crochet. It's fine. I'm 100% correct on all of this. Don't correct me in the comments. I'll cry. This is a hairpin loom. So doesn't look like much. You stick these in the holes, right? And what you're meant to do, this will be making lovely noises on my microphone, which is attached to my desk calipers. Yes, I have multiple pairs of calipers. Don't at me. It attaches there. I can't do it with one hand. So what you do, you make a crochet stitch, turn this around and make another crochet stitch in the last one. So you've got a lot of the loops that go across. It's fun. Then you kind of attach the little motifs that you make, and it's really nice. It works up nice and quickly. If you want something open and lacy, she's your gal. And then, I love so this is a double-ended Tunisian crochet hook. Honestly, not sponsored, but Addy is like beautiful for these. It's this like brushed aluminium. It's so nice to use. If you know how to do Tunisian crochet, you pick up a loop, go forward, and then do the loops backwards. Pull through, pull through, pull through. Okay? And that's using one hook. For this, you pick up with this one and pull up a loop, pull through too with this one. And you do it in the round. And it's really lovely for hats because you can do like two colours. It's really, really nice. Honeycomb, I think it's honeycomb stitch. I'm probably wrong. Honeycomb stitch for hats with this little guy. Absolute fire. There is one other type of crochet, which we'll be needing our trusty stake for. It's called broomstick crochet. When you pull up a loop, instead of just putting it on your hook and then pulling through, you pull up the loop, slip it onto something nice and thick like this. So broomsticks work. That's why it's called. That's why it's called broomstick crochet. Yeah. See how this works? So you slip it on there, and then you pick up like. I usually do like 5 loops at a time. 5's a nice number for this. Then do the stitches through there. It's a really nice, again, open work kind of thing. It's really fun to do, and it confuses everyone as to why you're using a crochet hook and a big old bloody one of these. I get strange looks on the bus. I've got to rate crochet, don't I? Our categories were, I forgot the categories. Accessibility. Mainstream crochet, very accessible. I'd give that like a 10. Like if you can get yarn, most places that sell yarn will sell crochet hooks, so you've not really got much of a problem there. How easy it is to learn. I'd give it a 9. It takes sometimes a while for your little plushies to look like they should. For a good few months at the start, I was doing front loop only instead of both loops because I thought that was right. And I made a little plushie whose forehead was so big it was just a 5 head. It was terrible. He was just long. I had to give him like a Homer Simpson clip, like sew him up at the back. It was a situation. He was great. He was great. Okay, drip. Okay, crochet. I think maximum drip. Because there's so many types of crochet, and you can do so much with it, and you can really thread a big thread. So I'd say 10. Decent amount of drip. Zombie apocalypse. Now, I'm gonna give it a 6, and that is simply because it's quite yarn hungry compared to knitting. It's very yarn hungry. It eats a lot more yarn than knitting does, or than weaving would for the same amount of fabric. So for that, yeah, a bit of a caveat. So 6 for that. I'm going to put the scores here in post because I am not a mathematician. Knitting. We love knitting. This includes knitting with straight needles, DPN, cable needles. Ease of learning. It's pretty easy. There's like 2 stitches in if you're gonna do something fairly simple. As far as I'm concerned, if you can knit and you can purl, you've passed the ease of learning. Accessibility of materials. Now we're going to discount yarn. Yarn's going to be. We're going to assume that you have an infinite amount of whatever thread or yarn or fabric that you need. Right? I'm talking about the specialized tools to turn that into knitting. Now, you might think, oh, these you can just make them out of dowels. They do need to be quite smooth because a little snaggy knitting needle, it's no fun. It's no fun. But again, you can kind of get them wherever there's yarn. So I'm going to give it like a 10 or whatever I gave for the crochet one. I'm sure editing Freya will love counting all of this up, won't she? The different types of knitting that I have down are straight needles. That's these guys. These are my little knit pros. They're my ride or die. DPN. Now that is these. It stands for double pointed needles, and classically it's what you would have made kind of socks, anything circular, stockings, kind of historically. That's what you would have made them on. Because the cable needles, if I recall, you only really had kind of good flexible stuff like this in the early 1900s. Correct me if I'm wrong, editing Freya. I love giving later me jobs. Pro tip for knitting beginners or people that are like, oh God, what size needles should I get for this? Get like a big multi-pack of just like cheap bamboo DPNs. Literally, I've lost one of these. You usually get 5 per size, and you just like put a little knitting nipple on the end, and you'd knitting nipple. I should knitting nipple. Obviously, you know, nipple starting with a K. It's one of these things. I guess it's like a stitch stopper or whatever. Knitting nipple. Put one of them on the end, and you've got 2 straight needles, and you've paid what, like 20 quid for 5 needles of every size that you'll ever need ever. Just do it. Just do it. It's a good idea. Cable needles, not to be confused with cable needles. These needles have a cable between, right? This is for creating cabling. You know that cute little knots crossover kind of thing that's really cute on cardigans and that. That's what this is for. They come in different shapes, but usually they're coloured plastic like this. These are needles with a cable between them. You can make circular things with them. I don't really like to. I like my DPNs. I'm just weird like that. But they're good if you've got a lot of stitches. Drip, decent amount. Now I'm going to give it, I think, 2 points lower than crochet, simply because crochet is capable of a lot more, I guess, structural. It holds its shape better. Knitting tends to be quite floppy. So if you were trying to make a soft toy or something quite stiff, knitting isn't going to be as good. So it's not that it doesn't look lovely. Please don't come for me, knitters, in the comments. It's not that it doesn't look beautiful, but it does. You can do more with crochet generally. So I'm going to give it like two less than I did for crochet. I've lost count. Zombie apocalypse. Oh, this is gonna be like a 9 or a 10. I'm probably gonna go with 9 because it's not quite as non-yarn intensive as like weaving or something, but it's up there. You can make clothes. It's useful as a craft. Knitting's pretty good. Socks are important, and you can make socks with it. That's pretty great. If I'm running barefoot from zombies, I'm gonna have a bad time. Wait, people have shoes. I just forgot about the existence of shoes. Screw it. Right. Obviously useful crafts. Sewing. Right, we've been doing this since the Iron Age, and we discovered pointy things that stick through things. So sewing, clothing, quilting, embroidery, basically anything you can do with fabric, needle, and thread. So that is what I'm counting as sewing. You get needle, stick it through thing, it's sewing. Except when it comes to knot binding later, it's fine. Don't worry about that yet. So how easy it is to learn. If you are wanting to it depends on what kind of craft it is. Cross stitch, pretty easy. Embroidery, pretty easy. Sewing garments, slightly less easy. Particularly if you're doing it by hand, because remember, there is no machinery. Angry zombies. So, no machinery. By hand, making garments, not super easy. So I'd probably give it maybe a 6. It's getting a 6. I've decided that I'm right. So accessibility and affordability. Sewing needles are everywhere. Fabric is everywhere. It is accessible, it is affordable. You can get stuff that you need to sew fabrics with for like quids, and then sheets from charity shops. It's 10. 10 out of 10. Drip. Now this is going to have to be a 10 because the amount of stuff that you can do with sewing is absolutely nutty. So yeah, drip. Very, very bodacious. We love it. Zombie apocalypse, 10. I'm sorry, sewing is just definitely S tier. I don't even need to do the maths for that. It's an S tier. You can sew things. You can fix things. It gets S tier, and I don't feel the need to elaborate. Weaving. So I've separated weaving into a few different disciplines because there's different types of weaving, ain't there? You got backstrap weaving, tablet weaving, and loom weaving. There are other sorts of weavings. But these are the main 3 that I'm going to look at because it's the ones what I know about. See how this works? Because I'm presenting this. I'm talking to you. You're a strange person listening to me. Backstrap weaving. You need a few sticks and some string. Sticks grow on trees. Straight sticks, ideal, but you can basically do it with very, very little. So I'm going to say accessibility and affordability. Backstrap weaving gets a 10. Ease to learn. Once you get the hang of the setup, it's all right. I'm going to give it an 8. Drip. I'm going to give this one maybe a 5. Because as much as we love backstrap weaving, and we do love her, she's amazing, she's beautiful, there's not a huge amount that you can... Okay, 6. Fine. Yeah, it's a 6. Zombie apocalypse. Oh, like that's like 10. I'm sorry. Like, if you need to make a shirt or a top or a blanket or if you need a fabric and you have sticks. I mean, trees live in a lot of places. Trees are good. You can just like steal some of their arms and just do some weaving. It's amazing how little weaving actually requires for you to make it. It's amazing. So like 10. I'm 10, and I'm correct about that. Tablet weaving. So ideally, you can do this backstrap. You can totally do it backstrap. Looms are nicer, but backstrap is possible. So tablet weaving. Vikings did it a lot. It's very cool. It looks dope. It's very strong weaves. Very strong weaves. Accessibility and affordability. Have you got playing cards? We use Magic the Gathering Islands because that's the only good use for them. So yeah, I'm going to assume that you've got playing cards and some scissors. Hopefully, if you don't, you've got more problems than that. And then the bits to tie it with, it's not quite as accessible as backstrap weaving, so I'm going to give it an 8. Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8. That seems right. How easy is it to learn? Oof. Right, so the setup is annoying because you got to put certain threads in one way, certain threads in the other way, and different. If you're wanting to just do a very basic band, fairly easy, I'm going to give it a 6. It's fairly easy to learn. Drip. Oh man. The drip is honestly not that great. The drip is great if you're at a medieval festival, maximum drip, right? Modern day, people will be like, what's that? So I'm going to give it a solid 7 because like that's what it's for. Zombie apocalypse. There are easier and better ways of making straps. No hate, but there's easier and better ways. I'm going to give it maybe like a 4. I'm going to give it a 4. Loom weaving. Yes. I'm classing loom weaving as anything that isn't backstrap weaving, isn't tablet weaving, and that you need a big wooden thing for. Usually they're made of wood. A floor loom, a rigid heddle loom, an inkle loom, a tapestry loom, anything from a frame of wood with things going up and down to a big old massive floor loom. As long as you're still doing it by hand, I still don't count it as machinery. I mean, okay, as long as it's something that could be made entirely out of wood pretty much, mostly, I don't count it as machinery. I'm sticking with it. I would give this, when it comes to ease of learning, if you're wanting to make a strap on an inkle loom or just make something on a rigid heddle loom, fairly easy. I'm going to give it a 7. Because some of the warping setups are just weird and, they take ages to do. Literally, I hate it. Ease of acquiring the things, bit harder. I'm going to give this one like maybe a 3 or a 2. Literally because they don't tend to stock meaningfully large weaving looms in most places, and when they do, they're expensive. We're talking hundreds of pounds for like a rigid heddle loom. So that's a low score for that. Drip. Pretty great drip. I'm going to give it an 8 because there's a lot of different kinds of loom. You can do a lot with them. Yeah, it's an 8. Like a nice little rainbow inkle band. We love that. We love that moment. So we're going with it. Zombie apocalypse. Oh, it's going to have to be a 7. No, an 8. Because yes, they're amazing at what they do. They make fabric. They're good. But getting around and carrying it with you, not very practical. If you got a big old floor loom and I don't know, the place where you're in is overrun with zombies. What are you going to do? You're not packing that up. You're not going anywhere with it. Now, for a section that I will be calling different flavours of rope. French knitting. You know those little wooden things? They're called knitting dollies, French knitting dollies, or they're painted to look like someone and they've got 4 little hooks in the top. These mine had 4 hooks. Some of them might have 5 or whatever. You usually don't have 3 or fewer. And the thing comes out, the little knitted circular thing. That's French knitting. I don't know why it's specifically French. Maybe they can only count to 4. I'm so sorry. I think this is the second video that I've insulted the French with. I love you guys. Seriously, I do. Obtainability. I'm going to give it a 6 because if you can't find one, you can make it. It's not hard. For ease of making, like 9. Maybe even 10. It's very easy. I was given one as a child and I could do it. And that was me as a child. Like, you see me now, it was worse. I was worse then. Drip. Now, I'm not going to give this an amazing score because everything this can achieve, DPNs also do. So I'm going to give it 4. It's cute, but what are you really going to use it for? You can't really use it. And, zombie apocalypse, it's not that useful. I know I said different flavours of rope, but it's not the strongest. It's incredibly stretchy. You can cut through it fairly easily because it's just knitted cord. So when it comes to zombie apocalypse, it's getting a 2. I mean, if you really need a piece of rope that is slightly thicker but a similar strength to the piece of yarn you currently have. 2. Lucet. When you think about it, and I have thought about it extensively, Lucet is just a 2-pronged version of French knitting, but it is tighter, right? So on French knitting, you pull the things out, you don't tighten them each time, that's why it's so loose. With Lucet, another thing that goes back to kind of Viking era, very good for lacing stuff up. I've got Lucet cord shoelaces. They're brilliant. I love Lucet. It's my thing to just do on the bus when I just want to look out the window and be that confusing person at the back of the bus making something with wool. It's a vibe. Trust me. Partake in the vibe. It's fantastic. It's basically French knitting, but tighter and with 2 little prongs at the top instead of 4. Ease of learning. Honestly, 9. Once you've got it, it can be a bit fiddly to start with, but once you got the hang of it, you're done. You're basically, you're golden. I might even give it a 10. You know what? I'm going to give it a 10. Basic Lucet cord, it's a 10. Ease of sourcing the things. Now, Lucet forks are a bit harder to source. You can make them. You can very easily make them if you've got some woodworking tools. But I am going to give it a 5, maybe a 4. I'm going to give it a 4 for ease of sourcing the things. Because you can get for the French knitting one, you can get one of these and some metal fairly easily. But getting a Lucet fork or getting stuff to make one with, a bit harder. So 4. I'm going to give it a 4. Drip. You can actually make some really interesting stuff with Lucet forks. You can use beads, multiple colours. I'm going to give it a solid 6. I'm going to give it a 6. Zombie apocalypse. It's getting. You know what? I'm going to give it a 6. Because you always need some sort of thing to lace shoes with, or a strong string-like thing, or lashings, or whatever. It's good. It's good. It makes the yarn more stiff and more rigid and less kind of floppy. So that's good. We love Lucets. We love Lucets here. I'm putting this in different flavours of rope. I don't know if it belongs here, but that's what I wrote. And who am I to argue with Freya of 4 months ago when I wrote this? Spinning. Right. It's pretty important if you want to be able to do most of the things here and you don't have access to yarn somehow. So how easy is it to get the bits? Now, this is going to be controversial. Drop spindles, dead easy. You can basically make them out of a stick and a rock. People have been making them for hundreds, thousands, even years. You're not going to have a problem with a drop spindle. Let me just grab one for you. This is a drop spindle. Ain't it pretty? You cut a notch in it, and you got to wait, and it goes wee, and it spins the yarn. It's not rocket science. That bit, pretty easy. Getting the stuff to spin, not as straightforward. Most places they'll have felting fibre, but that isn't usually very combed, so you sometimes need to go to more specialist shops and places to obtain things to spin. So I'm going to give it a 5, just literally averaging it out, like making a drop spindle or getting a drop spindle, just obtaining something that can be used as a drop spindle, solid 10. Getting something that can be, that finding the stuff for spinning, I'm going to average it out. Stuff for spinning too. I'm going to average it out at a 6. It's getting a 6. Ease of learning with the drop spindle, I'm giving it a 6. It took me a while to get the hang of a drop spindle, but after about 4 or 5 attempts, I was making fairly cromulent yarn. We're okay. We got it. When it comes to on a spinning wheel, it can be a little bit strange to treadle at the same time. Not counting e-spinners. Love my little electric eel, but she isn't invited to the zombie apocalypse, so she can get drip. It's wool. I mean, it's a thing for creating other things with, but raw on its own, not really. I'm like 1. It's a 1. Zombie apocalypse. Oh boy, this is like a 9. It's a 9, assuming that you can grow crops and grow flax, or if there's sheep still, or sheep or alpacas, or I don't know, those rabbits with the fur. It's getting a 9. I think I said 9, maybe 10. I don't know. Freya and Post can figure that out. Thank you. Combing and carding. These are pretty important if you've got a sheep or if you've got a field of flax and you need to spin it, because sheep's wool is not very easy to spin directly without carding it. Let me show you. Let me show you some stuff. This is a small carding brush. It looks like a dog flicking brush, but you can kind of see that it needs cleaning. You see how the combs are kind of bent? It helps you grab the fibers. This is good for shorter fibers, shorter hair. This is a weapon. These are just nails. I designed a 3D printed this because I really wanted a wool comb, and they're expensive. And I have 3D printers and a mighty need to process wool, because I buy wool. I bought a sheep's fleece because the sheep had the same name as me. And here she is, by the way. Meet some wool that once belonged to Freya the sheep. Smells pretty good for wool, and that is of nothing, because when wool doesn't smell good, it really doesn't smell good. So we know what carding and combing is. Let's rate them. Ease of obtainment. I'm going to give them a 4, because they're not too expensive, but they're a bit obscure and they can be a bit hit and miss. And they're not available literally everywhere. These, really quite expensive, very much not available everywhere. I mean, you can make them, but I doubt the average person has access to a 3D printer like this. You can make them. There are many tutorials online that shows you how to make them out of like wood and nails and resin. The score stands. Can't remember what I scored them, but it was that. Ease of learning. Now this one I'm going to put below ease of spinning. Like, I'm going to give it 1 less than whatever I gave ease of spinning, because I find it more difficult to get a good result. Because as well as these, you got to like wash it as well. It's very labor intensive. There's a lot of steps. You got to not felt it. If you felt it, you're screwed. It takes a while to not screw up. I'm going to give it 1 less than whatever I gave spinning. Drip. It's fluff. You're turning smelly sheep stuff or plant into fluff. That's what you're doing. I'm sorry, but it gets a 0. Zombie apocalypse. It gets the same score as spinning, because if you want to spin, you're pretty much going to have to do this, because the specialist shops that existed to sell you these things, they don't exist anymore, babe. They're not there. That was carding and combing. Knotting. Here's my trusty knotting shuttle. This is knotting. It's that. You tie knots. It's that. You tie knots. I don't know what else to tell you. You just tie knots. Ease of finding the things. You can literally make a knotting shuttle out of cardboard. I've shown that on this channel. Do it. It's great. Ease of finding the things. If you got some sort of non-stretchy thread, usually cotton's quite good. Yeah, it gets a 10 for accessibility. Ease of learning. I'm going to give it a 9. Literally, because once you've got the hang of how to make a knot, like I've taught this to my husband in like 20 minutes and he got the hang of it. And he doesn't really do fibre crafts. So yeah, it's getting a 9. Like, he's smart, but this isn't what he does. If I can teach it to him in 20 minutes, it gets a 9. Drip. Hotly debated. Hotly debated. I give it a 6. I mean, you can do some pretty cool things when paired with like couching it with embroidery and stuff, make it look cute. Most people are just going to see it as a weird kind of yarn, but you're going to know the effort that you put into it, and isn't that the main thing? I'm biased. I think it's really fun. 6. I will not be taking criticism at this time. Zombie apocalypse. Solid 0. Like there's and the solidest 0 that I could give something. It's literally, you get some perfectly functional thread and make it fancy. Unless you got zombies whose weakness is, oh look, I love the cordage. That's it. It's solid 0 on zombie apocalypse rating. I have said what I said. Kumihimo. Let me grab my little disc. I got a disc for this. Just don't talk about what's behind that. I'm not ready for the horrors. Here it is. This is a Kumihimo disc. It goes like that, and you cross the threads over each other. It's literally doing like a tiny version of what like maypole dancers do, but like with tiny threads and a little cardboard thing. It's incredibly easy to do. Literally, you need some cardboard and some yarn. So accessibility is getting a 10. Ease of doing it, I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give it a 9. For a basic braid, it'll probably be a 10. But taking the fact that you probably want to do something a little bit more interesting, you need to remember the order of the threads. I'm gonna give it a 9. But literally, like, kids can do it. It's so easy. Drip. Some of the stuff that you can make with Kumihimo, beautiful. It is getting a solid 9 for drip. Utterly useless in a zombie apocalypse. No, I'm sorry, but again, unless we've got the very stylish zombies that we arguably have for knotting, it gets a 0 for practicality. It doesn't really make the threads much stronger. Much more stronger than literally just like twisting 4 threads together. It's not doing anything for you practically. Maximum drip, minimum practicality. That's literally what I've got written here. Medieval finger braiding. Availability? Literally 10. You need the thread. You need something to attach it to. So like a tree. You can attach it to something. You need to exist, and there needs to be a solid something over there somewhere, not too far away. I've used my foot before. Assuming you have feet, then yes, 10. Solid 10. Ease of doing it. Pretty easy. I've taught a couple of people to do this. They've got the hang of it. They're not textile crafters. I'm gonna give it like, for the basic weaves, I'm gonna give it a 9. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna give it a 10. I'm feeling generous. Besides, it's not gonna do great later on. For drip, it's pretty great for drip. You can do pretty stuff with it. You can do all multicolored stuff. I'd say similar to knotting and Kumihimo for. I'm going to give it an 8. It's not quite Kumihimo, because Kumihimo's god tier for drip, but it's close. You can't do quite as many things, but it's pretty great. Zombie apocalypse. 0. No. Right? Yes, it would make the thread. It would make the whatever you're doing with it stronger than just the one thread. So you're braiding together threads, you're making it a bit stronger, but you can't do very much of it. You can basically, whatever you've got it attached to, you're on the end, right? So you've got this is going to be fine. Perfect. Lamp. You got thread attached to something over there, and then you've got, depending on how many you've got a loop on a few of your fingers, right? Now, you do some weaving up and down of that loop, and then you do that, and you hit the lamp. You do that, you pull them apart to tighten it, right? Now, if the thing is too far away, and your arm span is about that, you're going to struggle to tighten it very much. So you can only do limited amounts of this thing. My emotional support calipers. So yeah, it's 0 for zombie apocalypse. It's you just can't make enough of it to really help. All right, you know what? Extra charitable, giving it a 1. Okay, so we talked about sewing. So that was sewing with what I would regard as a sewing needle, a little thing made of metal that can pierce through fabric. We are now going to talk about chunky needles. By that, I mean something with an eye in one end that is not a sewing needle. I could find one of the things that I needed, but that'll do. First thing we're going to talk about is knarbinding. Some people call it Viking knitting. Basically, you get a needle and it's look at some knarbinding related things. You use a big old chunky, usually wooden or bone or antler kind of needle with a big. It's a fairly chunky needle, bigger than a yarn needle. Ease of finding. I'm gonna give it a 6 because a needle, you can literally make them. Like they're fairly easy to make. I think my husband, who has whittled twice, has made me one. Like it's not hard. The wool, however, you need single ply, kind of chunky wool. That's not the easiest to source, and it needs to be wool because you use a strand of it. Yeah, it's with the wool. It isn't attached to the ball. You use a strand of it and you sewing using the needle into the fabric to build up your fabric. And then when you get to the end of that, you need to felt it together with more of it. Now, felting, you got to like add some water, roll it together just to get it to felt together to attach it to the next section of yarn. And wool does that. Acrylic, not so much. Really not so much. And the kind of wool that you need in order to do that, you've either got to make yourself or you've got to buy, and it's not commonplace. So for that, averaging it out, needle and wool, I'm going to give it a 6. Ease of learning. For me, it gets a 4 because I can do about 2 stitches on it. Not very well. I'm terrible at tensioning on the needle. I can only tension on my thumb. And my tip of my thumb gets really cold after a while. So for me, it is a 4. It's not very easy. It's quite slow going. I think I've made a wrist warmer or a hat once, and it's not an experience I'd like to repeat. So yeah, not great. Drip. Again, if you go to a medieval or kind of pre-medieval event, yeah, maximum drip, people are going to be like, that's knarbinding. That is cool. Maximum drip. Everywhere else, not a huge amount. So it gets a 5 because half the events I go to are that. Zombie apocalypse. I'm going to have to give it like a 4 because again, finding the right yarn to make it, it's fine. It doesn't use much more wool than knitting. At least I don't think so. It's around the same as knitting, around the same stiffness as a lot of knitting would be. So it probably uses about the same amount of yarn. However, it is it's just way more work for a very similar payoff to knitting. Knitting is just better in so many ways. I mean, it's my video. I can say what I want. Looping or crochet. Or I have the tool behind here, but it's too tall. It is too high up, and I am short. It's called that thing. There's a picture of it. Sold 70s or 80s. It was one of those kind of as seen on TV magazine kind of jobbies. I have mixed feelings on this. I'm joking. I have all fully negative feelings on this. So the technical term is looping. It can also be known as crochet. Obtaining the tools. Solid 0. Because, right, you got to have a needle, but it also has to have like a rubber stopper for you to tension it, and then you got to have another size needle for different kinds of yarn. You need to have specific sizes, and in England, you can kind of get the whatever the model is. In America, it costs a lot because they are they're vintage collectible items, right? They're like the unicorns. At least they're unicorns for me until I realised that there's an English version. So, like, spilling the tea on that, you're welcome. Solid 0 for availability. Like, no. It's personal at this point. We have beef. Ease of learning, again, like, I think pretty much 2. Actually, no, I'm going to give it a 1. It's not that it's, like, rock hard. It's just that it just doesn't feel like you're really doing much. It's just like, is this working? Am I doing it? Drip. Oh, God, unless you want to feature in an 80s DIY kind of hobby magazine, it's just 0. I'm sorry, it doesn't get... Okay, 1. If the yarn's really nice, I guess it gets a 1. Zombie apocalypse, again, like, 0. You can do better, faster, comparable things, easier and faster and without... It's terrible. We have beef. And it's not just because I can't really do it that well. It's just not good. There's a reason that we don't do it anymore and that they don't make the tools anymore. A very good reason. Okay, so you thought I had beef with whatever's going on with that. Nooking. What is this?
What the fuck is this?
You see, you got the needle, but then what? It's knitting, but it is worse in every single conceivable way. Every single one. So you thread the yarn through here, right? No, do you? God, I can't even remember doing this. You know, I'm just gonna link a video doing this. I learned how to do this once, and I knew how to do this, and I still have this because believe it or not, this is actually a pretty nice crochet hook, but it's just so impractical, so incredibly impractical. Ease of learning. I mean, it wasn't that hard to learn. I'd give it like a 7, I guess. Ease of obtaining the thing. I mean, this is weirdly obscure, so I'm just gonna give this like a 2. Drip. It's knitting. I don't know what you want. It's knitting, but you can't do a lot of the things that you can really do with knitting with it. It's not. You can't do fun stuff. It's just the very base, a different way of creating knit stitches. That's all it is. So it gets a 2. I've just decided that it gets a 2. Zombie apocalypse 0. I'm sorry, there are better ways of doing it. There are easier ways of doing it, and yeah, we got beef. This and looping, major beef. Okay, lace. This is gonna be great. Bobbin lace. Availability. I'm gonna give it like a decent 8. You got pins, you got pegs, you got thread. You can kind of do it. You got a cushion. Yeah. Ease of doing it. I'm gonna give it a solid 4. It's not that easy to learn. Drip. Oh boy, this is like a 10 for drip. If you can do it good, it's a 10 for drip. No word of a lie. Zombie apocalypse, 0. I'm sorry, it's just useless. Absolutely useless. Tatting. We love tatting. Ease of being able to do it. You can pretty much out of cardboard and like with like a crochet hook on standby, make a shuttle-like thing. So I'm gonna give it a good 8. It's gonna be an 8. Ease of doing. Ooh, 6. 6, because some people might struggle with kind of like transferring the loop over. I'm going to give it a 6. It's not the easiest, but it's not the hardest. Drip 9. You can't do some of the stuff that you can do with like bobbin lace, but it's pretty great. It's a 9. Zombie apocalypse, again 0. What are the zombies going to do? Pause and look at the beautiful lace edging on your pretty dress? No, they're gonna eat you. They're gonna eat you. That's what they're gonna do. Netted lace. So I wouldn't say we have beef, but I'm not very good at it yet, and so therefore I don't like it. Ease of getting the stuff, 3. Maybe even a 2. No, I'm going to give it a 2. It is that they're fairly obscure. You don't really have that much choice. They're really specific for this. Ease of doing it, I can't do it yet, and I'm pretty good at picking up all of these skills. I've picked up enough to know that it's not the easiest thing to do. I'm going to give it a 4. I'm going to give it a 4. Drip, you know what? I'm going to give it an 8 because once you've made the net, right, then you like so cute. There's another word for the type of lace. Can't remember it. Thanks, editing Freya. Yeah, that's really pretty. Zombie apocalypse. You know what? If you had to catch some really small fish, right? Oh, it gets a 4. You can kind of make bags out of it. It's fairly secure as a form of netting, and I'm pretty sure it is how you make nets. I think. I don't know. I've never made an actual net, but if you can do this, you can make nets. So you know what? I'm going to give it 5 actually. I'm going to give it a 5. It's fine. Tambour embroidery. This technically works like when you crochet slip stitches onto the surface of another piece of crochet, but really small and sharp, and sometimes it has beads. Ease of getting the stuff. It's a 3 again. It's quite expensive, fairly obscure to find. It is a bit tricky. Ease of picking up. I got the hang of it, but I'm going to give it maybe a 3 or a 4. 3.5. If you don't know how to crochet, it'll make less sense to you. Drip, 10. Maximum drip. You can do so much with tambour embroidery. You can like put beads onto cloth. 10 for drip. 0 for zombie apocalypse. No, it's not good. It's not going to be useful to you unless you have zombies distracted by shiny beads on fabric. I don't see why you would. Now for some that don't really fit into a lot of categories. because we've had the essentially rope category, we've had the obvious categories, we've had lace. Sprang. Now, Sprang, usually you see it in kind of like hairnets historically. If someone's had a historical hairnet pre-medieval era, it's probably Sprang. Check out Sally Pointer's stuff on Sprang. Very cool. I need to make that little bag thing that she did. I'll link it down in the description. Ease of learning, I'd give it a 9. Honestly, it's fairly simple. You take a thread from the front, take a thread from the back, and you just keep doing that. Availability of the things, you basically need no things. You can do this with a branch. It's a 10. Drip, I'm gonna give it a 6 because you can make it pretty. You can make it quite pretty. You can't do a huge amount with it, not that I'm aware of. I don't know if you can use beads with it. Maybe. You know what? I'm gonna give it a 7. I'm gonna give it a 7 for drip. I'm feeling generous. Zombie apocalypse, I'm gonna give it a 7 because it's a nice stretchy fabric. You could kind of use it as a net. In fact, you know what? I'm giving it an 8. I think Sprang has been cruelly overlooked. Team Sprang. Macrame. Ease of getting the things. As long as you can find the rope, you can pretty much do macrame. However, pretty easy. I'm going to give it a 9, just considering that macrame rope is quite tricky to get, like the specific stuff, compared to yarn. Ease of learning? Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9. I'm going to give it a 10. It's fairly, yeah. You can make a simple wall hanging just by watching a video. Drip, I'm going to give it a 6. I've seen some really cute macrame dresses. I think that's pretty good drip. You know what? 7. 7 for macrame dresses. I am going to give it a 4 for post-apocalypticness because, yeah, you can probably make some quite good sturdy stuff out of macrame in the kind of post-apocalyptic setting, but there's more practical ways of making those same things.
It's 4 a.m. This is going to be the 4th time that I've recorded this section of the video, because every single time that my terrible little caliper-mounted microphone has given up the ghost partway through or right at the start. I'm fairly sure it's charged. Either way, what we're going to do now is we are going to record the rest of this video on my phone's microphone, and I'm going to hold this, my little emotional support calipers here. Here they are. Say hello, calipers. Hello. And we're going to pretend that everything's exactly the same. The sound's perfect. The sound is lovely. And there's a little microphone on here. Because honestly, at this time, I want to be done. I just want to be done. So that's what we're going to do. Okay? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you sitting comfortably? Punch needle embroidery. For the 4th time, punch needle embroidery is when you get piece of canvas. Monk's cloth is the one that I am told is good. That is what I have used. If others are available, I do apologise. I'm just saying what I know. It's not very much, but there you have it. Monk's cloth. And then you get this little needle thing. It's not a needle thing. It looks like a pen, but the tip is a point with a little hole in it. And you shove some yarn through, and then you go stab, 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 stab. And it makes a beautiful little picture. In how easy it is to learn to do this, I would honestly give it a 9. Largely because it's missing one point. And the only reason it's missing a point is if you have any tension on the yarn that's going through the tool, you're scuppered. So a bit tricky for beginners sometimes, and also making sure that you're going close enough to the yarn that you've already done, that you've got the right weight, and just teething troubles at the start. But it's pretty easy. So 9. Finding punch needles in shops and online, pretty easy. You can get ones that are adjustable for all different weights of yarn, and you're not going to have that much of a problem. And the monk's cloth is, as long as you know what you're getting, you'll be fine. You're golden. I give it an 8. It gets an 8. Drip. So in trying to assess drip for some of these crafts, they're difficult to wear. So one would normally regard drip as something worn. However, I am going to regard drip as also something that your house can wear, because this is my video, I'm tired, and this is the last time I'm filming this. As far as I'm concerned, I think it looks pretty cute. You can make some really cute stuff. I mean, you can make little patches and sew them onto your clothes or your bags. I like it. I'd say 7. 7 for drip. It would not be particularly useful in a zombie apocalypse. And we also are not allowed to use the tools of the craft to kill zombies. Even though the punch needles, they wouldn't do a terrible job. They would do a great job, but they wouldn't do a terrible job. But no, I'm going to give it a 0 in a zombie apocalypse. I'm sorry, it's a 0. Latch hook making and rug hooking, I'm just going to lump them together. They're essentially kind of similar movements, same-ish thing. Ease of doing it? Pretty easy. Once you get the hang of how a latch hook works, or, you know, pushing, you've got one movement. There's not really that much to it. I'm honestly going to give it a 10. Most people can manage it. When it comes to ease of obtaining the things, I'm going to go with a 9. And that is simply because, I mean, if you're doing a rag rug with like a Hessian back and just scraps or bits of wool, dead easy. Easily a 10. It's a 9 for if you're doing latch hook rug making and you've got one of the little plastic canvases. They can be a little harder to find, particularly in larger sizes. You can sew them together, but, you know, it's not... They're a bit harder to find, so that's brought it down a little bit. Just a little bit. Drip. I think they're cute. They can only really be rugs. I mean, you might be able to make a cute wall hanging out of it, but yeah, I'll give it a 5. It's a rug. You walk on it. As for zombie apocalypsability, that's a word now, I've decided. Yeah, no, none. It's a 0. Felting. Now, I'm going to separate this into needle felting and wet felting, because both are used for different purposes. So, needle felting, I would say, when it comes to ease of doing it, it's an 8. The actual movement, not that bad, as long as you don't go in wonky. You can get most of the stuff that you need. As long as you've got a specific, like, a felting needle, you can sort the rest of the stuff yourself, mostly. It's not a big high barrier to entry. However, the hard bit is keeping attention on what you're stabbing with the sharp needle near your hands. Because you know what else is near the sharp needle near your hands? Your hands! And that's bad. That's why I'm not a big felter. Drip, I'm going to give it an 8 because you can make some really cool stuff with it, and putting it around the house is cute. I like it, particularly like the woodland creatures. That is an excellent vibe, and I'm here for it. Zombie apocalypse, absolutely bloody useless. No, 0. I'm sorry, 0. Wet felting, you can make hats and kind of fabric and stuff out of it. It's not the most hard-wearing fabric, and you got to kind of treat it right, but it's very similar scores. So 8 to get the stuff, 8 to obtain the supplies, 8 to learn how to do it. It's largely about patience and not giving up before everything's actually felted together. Drip, it can look really cute. I give it same as needle felting, but for wearability. It's cute, it's all hippie, it's nice. Zombie apocalypse, one more point than needle felting because you can actually kind of like make fabrics and stuff, but otherwise not that useful, I don't think. Pin looms. I'm classing them as different from a lot of the weaving things because, well, you don't really have a warp and a weft so much as you kind of do it all at the same time. Pin looms are really good fun. You got a board or a kind of frame, and there's little pins around the side, and you wrap using a hook. I tend to like long crochet hooks, so Tunisian crochet hooks. They are my go-to tool for this. And you wrap it around the pins in a certain way and kind of weave in and out through what you've already wrapped, that create a really just a square of woven fabric. But it is a square that's diagonally woven, which is very, very cool, particularly since that you can use up small amounts of offcuts, little bits that you can't really do anything meaningful with, but the multicoloured effect makes a really nice kind of tartan-esque weave with kind of like how the colours work, and it's all central. It's really, really nice. Pin looms. So, accessibility. When I got mine, I got it off Etsy. I'll link it down at the bottom. You know, sharing is caring, and it's an amazing pin loom, like handmade. It's never let me down. You can get like dead cheap ones nowadays. I'm amazed at just like they're everywhere. So I'm gonna go for about a 7 on accessibility. You can't really get them at hobby stores, not that I've seen anyway, but they're fairly easily available online. Ease of learning how to do it. I'm gonna put this as a 7 because it's fairly easy to figure out how to do. However, using a hook, because you know, I'm an award-winning hooker, me. That's not going to be taken out of context at all. The way that you twist crochet hooks in order for things not to fall off them is a skill in and of itself. So if you already know how to do that, it's pretty easy. I'd give it a 9 or a 10 if you're already a hooker. But if you're not, then I'm going to go with a 7. Carry average it out, it's a 7. Drip. You can make some really cute patterns with it. You can do some really cute colour work and stuff. There's not that much you can do. I'm going to give it a 6. Right? It's not purely functional, but it's you can't do an amazing amount with it. So 6. Zombie Apocalypse. I am weirdly enough going to give it an 8. Now, there are more practical ways of creating large amounts of fabric and doing useful things with it. However, when it comes to using offcuts, because who knows, maybe you won't have a large amount of a single type of yarn to weave with. Maybe you'll have a few offcuts, a few different weights of it. You know, you work with what you got, and it's a really good way of working with what you got. So I personally would give it, I don't know what I gave it. I'm gonna give it an 8. They're not huge to carry around. Yeah, pin looms get an 8. I said what I said. We've managed to get to the end, and hopefully my audio is intact, because again, I'm using the phone audio that you're totally not going to point out, and the fact that there's no microphone on this. I just hold it for comfort now. It's my friend. If you enjoyed this, thank you. You don't need to do like a like or subscribe or anything. I mean, unless you want to. I'm not greedy. I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for me. Because this is a song spinner video, I feel it would be amiss to not have a song. So there is going to be a song. My wonderful husband pointed out that the big list of all of the crafts that I had should be like as part of a song. I can't remember what song he said it should be, but I decided that my idea was better. So I did my idea, because the perks of being a musician means you get to decide these things. Thank you for watching. If you've stayed here, that is truly impressive. Blink twice if you need help, and enjoy the very low effort song that I put together. You're very, very welcome, and I'll see you next time. French knitting, bobbin lace, kumi, hemo, macrame, crochet in the hairpin way, carding, felting, sprang, spinning, lucid, crochet, knotting, tatting, netted lace, knarl, binding, tambour, weaving with a loom. Nooking, knitting, needle lace, Tunisian crochet, finger braiding, rag rug making, one more verse to go. Broomstick crochet, punch needle embroidery, backstrap weaving, tablet weaving, sewing, unrelated things. We didn't start the crafting, we were always bitching, we were always stitching. We didn't start the crafting, we were always bitching, we were always stitching. This one is 25 millimeters. This is she thick. Damn it, Jim, I'm a fibre artist, not a mathematician. I don't know, those rabbits with the fur. Boots with the fur. The whole club looking at it goes like that. Oh no!
There's Melanie.
That's
a shame. She was really nice.
So yeah, go away. Everything's fine. Where on earth is my needles? Oh, you've lost all of my needles. I don't know where they are. I do what I want. Oh, that sounds so rude. It's my video and I do what I want.